So I'm in charge of Data Market. Put your hand up if you've heard about Data Market, okay? Keep it up if you've used it. All right, okay, good.
For the demo.
For the demo, this is great. All right, so I'm going to walk you through a bit about the history of it and what we've done so far and what we want to do in the future. And the other part of this is governance, which is a vast topic. So datamarket.com was a startup in Iceland that we bought. And when we bought them, they'd already made some money. They were selling quite effectively. They had curated over 100,000 publicly available data sources. So what does it look like? Well, you would type in a search. You'd get some faceted search to tell you what's going on. So we typed in birth rates. It says there's almost 700 data sets, and they're organized into topics. And you can filter down, because we have metadata as well. You can say, well, I'm actually interested in a particular year or particular region. How do I go further? You get to see some information about those data sets, where it came from, who published it. And when you open it up, you can explore it and find out what's in it. And you can export it if you want it. So what have we done? So far, we've integrated into 3 of our products. The QlikSense Cloud. This is all on the cloud anyway, so it's a great idea to integrate it directly into our cloud product. You go to Qlik Cloud, you say add data, Data Market, you can pull in that data straight away, it all works. We've added it into the out-of-box QlikSense Enterprise product, and we've also added it into QlikView. We think the install base that we have with QlikView is ripe to buy this sort of data. You guys should really be looking at it, pulling it in, showing your customers with the toolset they've already got. What we're not doing, we are not putting all the 100,000 data sets out there. We're starting again. And we're putting out very focused data sets which are specifically aimed at particular problems or industries and doing campaigns around that. So this is just a little snippet out of the marketing material you can get when off the download site when you download the connectors and the software. You can also download the PDF that comes with the software. So for free, you're going to get data sets like selected development indicators. You get over 50 years of data from 200 countries coming from the World Bank. And if you start to pay, well, then you can get things about the housing market in the United States. And this is what it looks like. I'm going to show you soon, but have a look. So we've broken it down. It's a very different search experience for the moment, into packages and functional areas where you can see and explore. We don't think most people would want all the data out of a data set. Some of our data sets are very large. We have weather data going back quite some time. That's the sort of thing most people don't want everything. So what we've done is we've created a user interface where you can explore what are the ways you could filter it and get what you need out of it. And when you do that, it comes in, and the real point for us, as opposed to the old data market, is you should try to use this with your on-premise data. Or if you've got data in a cloud like Salesforce.com, you can put it together. You can associate it and draw insights. So in the example that we've got on our demo site, we've got information per country, like how much sales, number of customers. You can join that up with the population and GDP and get an idea of what is your actual market penetration. Maybe they're selling really well, but they're just scratching the surface. Maybe you can't expect such growth because they're actually, compared to the GDP, you can work out how much people really make, etc. We're going to make the experience around searching and finding the data much better. And we're going to focus the market fit around the topical data packages. So the other part we're going to do is going to get a lot better incrementally at how do you associate that data up? How do you use it and blend it with your data? We're going to put the map data that we already use up there so that our out-of-the-box map experience uses it. We're going to make relevant suggestions. We're going to say, this looks like currency data. Would you like to normalize all the accounts, all the numbers so that they're in a common currency? We can do that. Click, just pay here. And we're going to look into new business models. I've already spoken to a couple of companies who want to sell their data to our customer base through this. because we respect the original license, this is an interesting approach. There's a whole market out there, a new developing market for buying and selling data. And really the legal aspect of that is more challenging than the technical aspect, the business side of it. So we have to make sure we're defending everyone's interests when we do that. So this is some data that, it's world population by country. It's free. We give it away free. I suggest you have a look. It was last updated on June 17th last year. It gives you information about how many people there are per country per year, by age group and by gender. All right, so it's very, very simple data, but you can learn a lot by exploring it. So, for example, this is the population of the world in 2013 broken down by age group and by gender. And you can see that the lifespan still drops off quite well here. But if I go back in time to here and I have a look how that is changing. People are living much longer. How long can that go? If I have a look at sex discrepancies, the first thing I did was look at a pyramid, an age pyramid, but I didn't actually learn much. I learned a little bit there, but this one I found much more useful. I'm trying to see if there is a real difference in the ratio of men to women in a country. So the ones in blue have more men than women, and it's giving you how much more men than women. And the ones in red have more women than men. And I expected there to be almost none that went above 10%. And so I'm kind of shocked to see that there are spikes going high. I wouldn't have expected that. I wouldn't have learnt that from looking at the numbers. And it turns out that the Gulf states. So this is kind of interesting because I don't actually believe that they have that many more men than women. I think that the government isn't reporting the numbers, which is a very interesting thing about when you're making decisions in those countries. What statistics can you trust? Where do you correlate that from different sources to learn? And the last one on my list was Iran, where Iran has had, I don't see anyone talking about this in the newspapers or the internet, anyone in the media, when you talk about the Iranian nuclear negotiations. Have a look at this. You've got a new generation. Everyone just had kids and then stopped. And that generation is just getting older and older. And what's going to happen when their kids start getting into high school in like 5-6 years? What political effect is that going to have? No one's talking about it. And that's just free out of the box, ready for you guys to go and make some demos and show people the power of this sort of technology, right? I can say on the order details, I can have a look and I can see that I've got actually two different quantity fields, right? And they look kind of the same until you get to here. There's 22 here and 44 here. And as I look down, that repeats. That repeats. Maybe I should be interested in looking at 44 divided by 22, that divided by that, right? So that's the invoiced quantity STDUM, and that's the invoiced quantity. So what I can do is I can add a field, and I can say, well, I'm just going to call it ratio, and I'm going to say it's the invoiced quantity STDM divided by the invoiced quantity create. And you can see it's an integer too, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So I'm done with that. But are they joined up? Because I have no idea if they're joined up or not. We've got this button down here called associations, which came in earlier in the product. Have you guys played with that at all? Yep. 3. So have a look at this. This is a list of the different ways that we've detected you could probably join the tables together. And for each one, we're going to walk you through with one table on the left and one table on the right with the preview, how we are suggesting that you join them together, and you get to choose. So in this case, no associations, but we could join on order detail invoice number with order header invoice number. And when we do that, we click on here and it's done. And now we can move to the next one. So here, do you want to join the standard cost with the unit cost? I don't think joining on costs is a very good idea. But on the product ID, yes. But it did pick up that they contain the same sort of data. Let's load the data in. and we're in a much better place. So as you can see, we are really making investments here. And this is just going to continually, incrementally improve to make it a better experience for people who don't have to learn script to do at least a bit of this mixing data up, understanding it for themselves. The other thing about it is that we did automatically pick up dates, and we automatically made calendars for them. How to do this with some very, very simple example with the currency data from Data Market. So I'm going to add that in. And this is it. I mean, it's very, very easy to understand. I've basically got an ID for the transaction, I've got a currency, and I've got an amount. I'm going to finish up there. And then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to say, open the data manager. So I'm back here now. I'm going to say, add in some more data from Data Market. And I'm going to add in the currency exchange rates. And here we get to, as I told you before, we get to filter. So the base currency, I'm going to choose all of them. And I'm going to go to this quote currency. We're in Britain, so I'm going to say we just want to go to British pounds. We don't care about other currencies. And for the date time, I only want the most recent. I don't care about the history. What is it today to do the conversion? I'm going to prepare the data. So if I go onto the associations, and now I have to choose a name. It could be called base currency, it could be called currency. I'm just going to call it currency, and away we go. So you get the point. You happy with seeing that? You like that?
Oh, yeah.
Good. So when we go and present this, the vision and what we've done to customers, especially the larger ones, they say, I want that for my data. How do I have a data market for our corporate data? And I was down at a company where they've got, what was it? Over 10,000 QlikView licenses. So the central team doesn't have a clue what's going on. They're basically selling their services internally. There's no good reference data. How does that team know what's being made and centralize it and use it and give better advice? So how do we make the search for relevant, curated data? How do we make get people to trust it? Trust is a really interesting thing. We've gone through a phase where people were told, this is the official data in the data warehouse, you have to trust it, and no one could change it fast enough to get the decisions done. So people stopped trusting it because it was already out of date. How do you build trust? Is it a social thing? Do you trust it because I know that guy and he always knows what he's doing? So we're doing some research around that and looking at different concepts there. And we want to have this mix and match at least a little bit without having to go back to the really heavy duty developers, so that by the time they come back and say, this kind of makes sense, help me out, make it real, they've already gone a significant part of the way there.